The rain hammered the church roof like God's own fury, drowning out the last echoes of the eulogy for my mom. I stood there in the vestibule, tie askew, staring at the sea of black umbrellas filing out into the downpour, each one carrying away a piece of the life we'd pretended was whole. But Brian, my stepdad, the man who'd married her 5 years ago and somehow made her smile again, didn't move. He lingered by the altar, his broad shoulders slumped, clutching a single wilted rose like it was the last thread holding him together. "You gonna stand there all day, kid?" His voice cracked through the empty space, rough as the gravel in his Brooklyn accent, but there was no bite to it, just a hollow ache that mirrored the one clawing at my chest. I turned, and our eyes met for the first time without her as a buffer. His hazel gaze, flecked with gold like autumn leaves, piercing right through the walls I'd built since the day he walked into our lives. I swallowed hard, the words sticking like thorns. "What now, Brian? We just pretend this didn't gut us both." That's when he crossed the aisle in 3 strides, pulling me into a hug that smelled of wet wool and whiskey, his stubble scraping my cheek. And in that crush of grief, something shifted electric and wrong, a spark neither of us saw coming. The drive back to the brownstone in Park Slope was a blur of windshield wipers slapping rhythmically against the relentless New York rain. Brian gripped the steering wheel of his old Ford pickup like it was the only thing keeping him from unraveling, his knuckles white against the cracked leather. I sat shotgun, staring out at the blurred neon signs of 4th Avenue. Pizza joints, laundromats, the kind of everyday grit that Mom used to say made this city feel alive. Now it just felt like a mocking reminder that life kept churning, even when you're stopped. We hadn't spoken since that hug in the church. It hung between us like smoke from a backfired engine. Thick, acrid, impossible to ignore. My name's Kevin, 28, a graphic designer scraping by in a Bushwick loft that costs more than my soul's worth. I'd moved back home 6 months ago when the cancer diagnosis hit, trading freelance gigs for late-night chemo runs and forcing smiles over hospital jello. Mom, Elena, with her wild Italian curls and laugh that could fill a room, had fought like hell, but in the end, it was quiet. Too quiet. Brian pulled into the alley behind the house, killing the engine with a sputter that echoed the storm outside. The brownstone loomed dark and unwelcoming, its stoops slick with puddles reflecting the street lamp's orange glow. "Come on," he muttered, grabbing the umbrella from the dash. It barely covered us as we dashed up the steps, shoulders brushing in the tight space. Water dripped from my hair onto the welcome mat, the one Mom had embroidered with "Home is where the heart is," now faded and frayed. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the scent of lilies from the wake and the faint tang of Brian's aftershave. He flicked on the kitchen light, casting long shadows across the Formica counters cluttered with sympathy cards and half-eaten casseroles. I shrugged off my coat, hanging it on the hook by the door, and watched as he busied himself at the sink, rinsing out 2 mugs with mechanical precision. "You want coffee? Or something stronger?" His back was to me broad and unyielding, the kind of frame built from years hauling lumber on construction sites. At 42, Brian was all weathered edges, tattoos peeking from his shirt cuffs, a jawline shadowed by perpetual 5 o'clock scruff. He'd been a widower himself once, lost his high school sweetheart to a car wreck before I was even born. Mom said that's what drew her to him, that quiet capacity to carry loss without letting it crush you. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed to steady the tremor in my hands. Whiskey. Neat. It wasn't my usual. I'm more of a craft beer guy, nursing IPAs at queer bars in Williamsburg where the music thumps loud enough to drown out the loneliness. But tonight called for burn. He poured 2 fingers into each glass, the amber liquid glinting under the bulb. Handing me mine, our fingers brushed. Just a graze, but it sent a jolt up my arm, like static from a wool sweater. His eyes flicked to mine, holding a beat too long, and I looked away first, heat creeping up my neck. What the hell was that? Grief playing tricks, that's all. Had to be. We clinked glasses in silence, the sharp clack cutting through the hum of the fridge. The whiskey went down smooth, warming the hollow pit in my gut. Brian sank onto a stool at the island, rubbing his temples. Your ma. She was something else, Kev. Tough as nails, but soft where it counted. His voice thickened, and he cleared his throat, staring into his glass like it held answers. Yeah, I managed, perching on the stool opposite. She kept us both in line. A ghost of a smile tugged at my lips, remembering how she'd drag us to Coney Island last summer, forcing hot dogs and roller coasters on two grown men who grumbled but secretly loved it. That was Mom, turning pain into play, shadows into sunlight. The rain pattered against the window, a steady drum that filled the pauses. Brian set his glass down, fingers drumming the counter. I keep waiting for her to walk in, you know? Yell about the dishes or something stupid. He laughed, but it came out choked, and suddenly his face crumpled, elbows on the granite as he buried his head in his hands. I froze, glass halfway to my lips. This man, solid stoic Brian, who'd fixed my bike as a kid and taught me to throw a curveball, breaking like this, cracked something in me too. Without thinking, I slid around the island, laying a hand on his shoulder. Hey, it's okay. We're gonna figure this out. He looked up, eyes red-rimmed, and for a second, the world narrowed to just us. The heat of his skin through his shirt, the faint scar above his eyebrow from a bar fight in his 20s, the way his breath hitched. How, Kev? How the fuck do we do this without her? I didn't have an answer. Instead, I pulled him into another hug, this one fiercer, my arms wrapping around his frame as if I could hold the pieces together. He stiffened at first, then melted, his forehead dropping to my shoulder. We stayed like that, rocking slightly with the force of silent sobs, the whiskey buzzing warm in our veins. When he pulled back, his hands lingered on my arms, steadying us both. Our faces were inches apart, breaths mingling in the dim light. I could see the flecks in his eyes up close, the faint lines etched by laughter and loss. Time stretched, taut as a wire, and then, God help me, he leaned in, lips brushing mine in a kiss that was tentative, searching, born of desperation. I didn't pull away. I kissed him back, hard and hungry, tasting salt and sorrow and something forbidden blooming hot between us. His hands fisted in my shirt, pulling me closer, and the kitchen spun, the rain a roar in my ears. It was wrong, every societal rule, every family tie screaming no, but in that moment, it felt like the only truth left. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed together. Shit, he whispered, voice ragged. Kev, don't. I cut him off, heart pounding like a jackhammer. Just, don't say it, because if we named it, it'd shatter. Instead, I grabbed his hand, leading him upstairs to the guest room, my old room, where the bed was still made with Mom's quilt. We didn't speak as clothes hit the floor, bodies colliding in a tangle of need and numbness. It was raw, urgent, hands mapping unfamiliar territory with a reverence that bordered on worship. His touch was calloused but gentle, tracing my ribs like he was memorizing a blueprint. Mine trembled as I explored the planes of his chest, the dip of his waist, whispering his name like a prayer. Afterward, we lay spent in the dark, sheets twisted around us, the storm outside easing to a drizzle. His arm draped heavy across my waist, breath evening out into sleep. I stared at the ceiling fan blades slicing shadows, mind racing. This wasn't just grief fucking with us. This was deeper, a current I'd felt simmering since he first stepped into our lives. Jokes over dinner that lingered too long, glances in the hallway that made my pulse stutter. I'd buried it under layers of denial, coming out to Mom at 20 but keeping the rest locked tight. Brian, he was straight as an arrow, or so I thought, the rock of our fractured family. Morning light filtered through the blinds, gray and unforgiving. Brian stirred first, rolling away with a curse under his breath. He sat up, back to me, shoulders tense as he yanked on his jeans. Last night, that was a mistake, I finished, voice flat, though my chest ached like it had been hollowed out. Propping on an elbow, I watched him, the play of muscles under his skin, the tattoo of a compass on his forearm, a nod to his Navy days. We were wrecked, It happens. He turned, hazel eyes stormy. Does it? Or did we just cross a line we can't uncross? There was no regret in his tone, just a raw honesty that pinned me in place. He raked a hand through his dark hair, streaked with early silver. I felt it before, pullin' toward you. Thought it was just protecting you like a dad should. You're not my dad, I said softly, sitting up, sheet pooling at my waist. You never were. And I'm not a kid anymore. The air thickened, charged with unspoken truths. He crossed the room in 2 strides, kneeling by the bed, hand cupping my jaw. Then what are we, Kevin? Tell me. I leaned into his touch, closing my eyes against the whirlwind. Lost, but maybe, together. His kiss this time was slower, deliberate, sealing a pact we both knew could destroy us. We dressed in silence, the house creaking around us like it mourned too. Downstairs, over coffee and toast that tasted like ash, we mapped out the funeral logistics, paperwork, the reading of the will next week. Normalcy, a fragile shield. But as I washed dishes, Brian came up behind me, arms encircling my waist, chin on my shoulder. We tell no one, he murmured, lips brushing my ear. Not yet. This stays ours. I nodded, leaning back into him, the warmth of his body a balm against the chill seeping in from the window. Ours. The word echoed, promising and perilous, as the city woke beyond the glass. Horns blaring, lives intersecting in chaotic harmony. Little did we know, the first crack was already forming. A shadow named Jake, my best friend from design school, who texted as we stood there. Hey man, need to talk. Saw something at the wake you won't believe. 2 weeks blurred into a haze of estate lawyers and empty closets. Mom's clothes folded into boxes for Goodwill, her perfume lingering like a ghost in the folds. Brian and I fell into a rhythm. Mornings tangled in his bed. Mine felt too haunted. Coffee brewed strong and black, stolen kisses over the sink before he headed to the site. Nights were ours. Takeout from the Thai place on 7th, old movies on the couch where his hand would find mine. Fingers interlacing like puzzle pieces we'd only just discovered fit. It was intoxicating, this secret world we'd carved from the wreckage. Brian opened up in ways he never had, stories of his rough and tumble Queens childhood. The Navy stint that left him with nightmares in that Compass Inc. The ache of losing Sarah, his wife, in a screech of tires on the Belt Parkway. She was my anchor, he'd say, voice low as we lay in the dark, his head on my chest. But you're the storm I didn't know I needed. I'd traced the lines of his face, memorizing the crinkles at his eyes from squinting at blueprints. And you're the steady I never had. Dad bailed when I was 10. Left Mom with a stack of bills and me wondering what I did wrong. Coming out had been a battlefield. Whispers in high school lockers, a fistfight with my uncle at Thanksgiving. Mom had been my shield, fierce and unyielding. Now, with her gone, Brian filled that void. His love a quiet thunder that shook me to my core. We were careful, curtains drawn, no touches in public. Park Slope buzzed with its liberal vibe, rainbow flags fluttering from brownstones. But scandal had sharp teeth, especially when it tangled family ties. Incest adjacent, I joked once, earning a playful swat and a kiss that left us breathless on the kitchen floor. Jake's text nagged at me, though. My best friend since Pratt Institute, tall, lanky, with a mop of red hair and a sketchbook always in hand. We'd bonded over late-night renders and bad decisions. He'd been at the wake, hovering on the edges with a flask of gin passed under folding chairs. I finally called him one rainy afternoon while Brian was out grabbing lumber. Dude, spill, I said, pacing the living room, phone pressed to my ear. The space felt cavernous without Mom's knickknacks. Shelves bare, walls echoing. A pause, then Jake's voice, edged with something brittle. Kev, I saw you and Brian, after everyone left. In the vestibule. My stomach dropped, cold sweat prickling my skin. Look, I get it, grief's a bitch. But, him? Your stepdad? That's fucked up, man. I sank onto the couch, head in hand. It's not what you think. Or, shit, maybe it is. But it's real, Jake. Deeper than anything. He laughed, sharp and disbelieving. Real? Kev, you're the poster boy for rainbows, parades, apps, all that. He's straight. Married your mom. This is some Oedipal rebound crap. His words stung, laced with that passive-aggressive bite he got when jealous. Jake had nursed a crush on me freshman year, confessed over cheap tequila, and I'd let him down easy, blaming timing. We'd been solid since, or so I thought. It's not a rebound, I snapped, defensive heat rising. You don't know him like I do. Another beat of silence. Maybe not. But I know you, and this? It'll wreck you. Just be careful, okay? I'm here if you need to talk. For real. We hung up awkwardly. Promises to grab beers exchanged like placeholders. I texted Brian a vague all good, and he replied with a heart emoji, our code for hurry home. But Jake's warning burrowed, a splinter under my skin. That evening, Brian came back mud-splattered from the site, hauling in bags of Thai basil chicken and spring rolls. He kicked off his boots in the hall, grinning that crooked smile that lit his whole face. Missed you today, city boy. He tugged me close, kissing me deep, tasting of coffee and sawdust. We ate cross-legged on the living room rug, picnic style, a mom habit we'd kept, trading bites and stories. He told me about a coworker, Marco, who ribbed him endlessly about the missus back home. Brian just chuckled, but I saw the flicker of guilt in his eyes. Lying to them, it eats at me. Then let's stop hiding, I said, impulsive, setting down my fork. Tell Marco, tell the world. We're adults, Brian. In love. His fork paused mid-air, expression shifting to something guarded. Love, huh? He set it down, leaning back on his hands, studying me. You say that easy, Kev. But what if it blows up? Your job, my crew, they're old school. And family. Christ, what would Elena think? The mention of her name was a gut punch. She'd want us happy? I whispered, though doubt gnawed. Mom had known I was gay, loved me fierce, but Brian? Her husband, now in my bed? The thought twisted like a knife. He pulled me into his lap, strong arms wrapping tight. You're right. We'll figure it. Slow. His lips found my neck, trailing fire, and we forgot the food, bodies arching in the lamplight. It was tender that night. Slow explorations, whispers of mine and always, sealing promises with skin. But the splinter festered. Days later, at the will reading in a stuffy midtown office, Jake showed up uninvited. For support, the lawyer droned on house split 50-50, savings to me, his truck to Brian. Jake sat beside me, knee bumping mine accidentally, his gaze flicking between us with knowing smirks. Brian, across the table, kept his face neutral, but I caught the tension in his jaw. After, as we signed papers, Jake cornered me in the hallway. See? Even here, he's watching you like a hawk. Possessive much? Back off, Jake, I hissed, glancing to ensure Brian was out of earshot. This isn't your business. He stepped closer, eyes flashing hurt. It is when you're throwing away everything for a midlife crisis. Fuck. Care, Kev. More than he ever will. Before I could retort, he leaned in, brushing a too familiar kiss on my cheek. Brotherly, but laced with intent, and walked out, leaving me reeling. That night, over dinner, I confessed fragments. Jake's suspicions, the awkwardness. Brian's face darkened, fork clattering. He knows? Fuck. What did you tell him? Enough to shut him up. But he's wrong. This is us, not some fling. I reached for his hand, but he pulled back, standing abruptly. Is it? Or am I just the easy out? Filling a hole till you find some pretty boy your age. His voice rose, laced with insecurity I'd never heard. He paced, hands in his hair. I'm twice your age, Kev. What do I even offer? Stability? That's code for boring. I stood, closing the distance, hands on his chest. You offer everything. Heart. Home. Me. I kissed him fierce, pouring conviction into it, until he sagged against me, murmuring apologies into my hair. We made up in the shower, water cascading hot, bodies slick and urgent. But as he traced soapy circles on my back, whispering I love you for the first time, 3 words that bloomed like fireworks in my chest. I couldn't shake Jake's face, the seed of doubt he'd planted. Weeks turned to a month, the house less echoey with our routines. Me sketching logos at the dining table while he tinkered in the basement workshop, emerging with handmade shelves for my books. We ventured out, discreet dates at dive bars in Red Hook, hands brushing under tables, laughs shared over pool cues. One night, under the Brooklyn Bridge's glow, he pulled a small box from his jacket. A silver keychain compass, engraved True North. "For you," he said, voice gruff, "so you always find your way back." Tears pricked my eyes as I kissed him, the city humming around us. Ferries tooting, traffic a distant roar. Felt like a vow etched in metal. But vows break easy. Jake started texting more. "You deserve better, he's using you." Subtle barbs that escalated to voicemails, voice slurred with booze. I blocked him, but the damage seeped. Then, one Friday, Brian came home late, reeking of beer and something floral. Perfume? He brushed it off as a crew happy hour, but the lie hung heavy. That night, as we lay awake, his back to me, I whispered, "What's really going on?" Silence, then Marco knows. Cornered me today. Saw us at the bar last week. Says I'm a disgrace. Gonna tell the guys. His voice cracked. I told him to fuck off. But what if he does? I rolled toward him, hand on his hip. We face it. Together. He turned, eyes searching mine in the moonlight. Together. Yeah. But dawn brought the real storm. A pounding at the door, Jake's voice bellowing, drunk and furious. "Open up, Kev. We need to talk. About your dirty little secret." The door rattled under Jake's fists, each thud a hammer blow to the fragile peace we'd built. Brian bolted upright in bed, sheets tangling around his waist, his face a mask of alarm. "Stay here," he growled, yanking on sweats. But I was already moving, heart slamming against my ribs like it wanted out. "No way. This is my mess too." I threw on a robe, following him down the stairs, the wood creaking under our bare feet. The clock read 2:17 a.m., neon numbers mocking the wreckage about to unfold. Outside, through the frosted glass, Jake's silhouette loomed, wild-eyed and swaying, rain-slicked hair plastered to his forehead. Brian cracked the door, chain still latched, his bulk filling the frame. "The hell you doin', kid? Go home. You're wasted." Jake's laugh was bitter, eyes locking on me over Brian's shoulder. "Kid? That's rich, coming from the cradle robber. Let me in, Kev, or should I say, let me save you from this bullshit." I pushed past Brian, unlatching the chain, the cool night air slapping my face. "Jake, stop. You're crossing lines you can't uncross." My voice trembled, but I held his gaze. Those green eyes, once full of easy camaraderie, now twisted with betrayal. He stumbled forward, breath hot with gin. "Me? You're the one fucking your stepdad. I saw you at the church, groping like teenagers. Thought it was grief, but nah, you've been at it months. Months? Kev, while I'm here, loving you like a goddamn fool." The words landed like punches, sucking the air from my lungs. Brian tensed beside me, hand on my arm, protective, steady. But Jake barreled on, jabbing a finger at him. "And you, parading as the family man, all while eyeing the sun. Sick fuck." "Enough!" Brian roared, stepping onto the stoop, towering over Jake. Rain pelted us, cold and relentless, turning the scene to a blurry watercolor. "You got no right. I got every right," Jake shouted back, voice cracking. "Kev's my best friend. I warned him and he chose you. But I'm not letting you ruin him." He turned to me, pleading now, eyes glassy. "Come on, man. Pack a bag. Crash at mine. We can laugh this off later. Blame the whiskey, whatever. Just leave this." My throat burned, torn between the man I'd known half my life and the one who'd become my world. Jake, with his messy genius and unwavering loyalty, until now, when it curdled into something possessive, ugly. Brian, silent now, rain dripping from his jaw, giving me space to choose. "I can't." I said finally, voice barely above the downpour. I love him, Jake. It's real. Messy, yeah, but real. His face crumpled, a sob escaping as he backed down the steps. Love? That's what you call it? Fine. Rot in this lie. He spun, staggering into the night, disappearing around the corner with a final, broken curse. Brian pulled me inside, bolting the door, his arms enveloping me as shivers racked my body. Not from cold, but the quake of what we'd lost. You okay? He murmured, towel drying my hair like I was a kid after a ball game. I nodded against his chest, inhaling the familiar scent of him, soap and earth. He won't let it go. He'll tell people. Let him. Brian's tone was steel, but his hold tightened, betraying the fear. We fight it together. We climbed back to bed, bodies curling close, but sleep evaded us. Dawn crept in gray, and with it the fallout. Texts from mutual friends, heard some wild shit. True. Jake's poison spreading like ink in water. By noon, my inbox overflowed. Clients pulling gigs, whispers from the design collective about personal drama. Brian's phone buzzed too, Marco's number. Ignored. He paced the kitchen, brewing coffee with jerky motions. Crew's side-eyeing me today. One wrong look, and I caught his hand, pulling him down to the table. Then quit. Or don't. But we don't hide anymore. Pride's next month. We go. Together. His laugh was hollow. As what? The scandal couple? As us. I kissed his knuckles, each one scarred from years of labor. Human. Flawed. In love. He searched my face, then nodded, a spark reigniting. Okay. For you. The weeks that followed were a gauntlet. Jake went radio silent, but his shadow loomed. Anonymous posts on design forums, vague enough to sting but not sue. I threw myself into work, pitching bold campaigns for queer nonprofits, channeling the chaos into pixels and prose. Brian rallied too, confiding in his sister, Aunt Rita, a no-nonsense nurse in Jersey, who surprised us with a call, "Loves love, boys. Elena would have kicked your asses for doubting it." Her blessing was a lifeline, but the world wasn't so kind. At a client meet in Soho, a exec sneered, "Heard you're into family reunions. Kinky." I walked out, Brian waiting curbside in the truck, engine idling. He didn't ask, just drove us to the pier, where we watched ferries slice the East River, hands linked on the console. "You're worth it," he said, voice rough. Every sideways glance. That night, passion reignited fiercer. Bodies claiming each other against the headboard, moans echoing off walls that held our history. "Mine?" I gasped, nails digging into his back, and he answered with a growl, "Always." But betrayal brews slow. One humid June evening, Brian came home early, face ashen, a crumpled flyer in his fist. "Found this on the truck." At the sight, he smoothed it on the counter. A photocopied screed, "Predator in our midst, Brian O'Connor, stepdad turned stalker. Protect our sons." Jake's handwriting jagged and furious. My blood ran cold. "He followed you?" Brian nodded, crumpling it again. "Marco handed it out. Whole crew knows now." I punched him, got suspended. Guilt crashed over me. "This is my fault." "No." He cupped my face, fierce. "Ours to own." But his eyes, haunted, distant, betrayed the lie. That night, he slept on the couch, claiming back pain, but I heard the whiskey bottle clink long after midnight. The climax hit like a nor'easter. Pride weekend dawned sticky hot, rainbow flags snapping in the breeze down Fifth Avenue. We joined the march, me in a tank top scrawled with "Love Wins," Brian in his best button-down, arms slung casual around my shoulders. The crowd pulsed, drag queens on floats, queer families waving signs, bass thumping from speakers. For blocks, it felt invincible. Cheers for us, high fives from strangers, Brian's laugh booming as confetti rained. Then, midway through Chelsea, Jake emerged from the throng, flanked by a knot of our old Pratt crew, faces twisted in judgment. He held a sign. "Not all love is equal, stop the grooming." Cameras flashed. Murmurs rippled. Kev, he yelled, voice carrying over the din. This your happy ending? Parading your shame. The crowd hushed, eyes on us. Brian's arm tightened, but I stepped forward, pulse thundering. Shame? That's you, Jake. Twisting love into hate because you can't have it. My voice amplified by the mic from a nearby float, booming to the masses. This man saved me when I was drowning. He's my partner, not my predator. Back off. Gasps, then applause, thunderous swelling. Jake faltered, sign drooping, his posse shifting uncomfortably. You're blind, he spat, but it lacked fire, eyes wet with defeat. He turned, melting into the crowd, leaving his sign trampled under marching feet. Brian pulled me close, kissing my temple amid the cheers. Proud of you, babe. High on the moment, we danced through the parade's end, bodies slick with sweat, hearts full. But as night fell, confetti-strewn streets emptying, Brian's phone lit up. A voicemail from his foreman. Fight's over, O'Connor. You're out. Don't come back. He deleted it without a word, but the silence on the drive home was a chasm. What now? I asked, hand on his thigh. He covered it with his own, squeezing. We rebuild. Start over. You and me. Yet doubt flickered, his job gone, our savings dwindling on mortgage and meds from mom's final bills. I took side gigs, freelancing till my eyes burned, while Brian pounded pavement, resumes stacking like unpaid notices. Arguments simmered. My optimism clashing with his pragmatism, small slights ballooning. You're young, you'll land on your feet, he'd mutter during one row, words slicing deep. And you? What? Give up. I'd fire back, storming to the guest room. The breaking point came mid-July, heat wave baking the city. I came home from a pitch meeting to find Brian packing, suitcases open on the bed, tools lined on the dresser. What the hell? He didn't look up, folding a flannel with precise creases. Can't do this to you, Kev. Dragging you down. I'm heading to Jersey. Rita's got a couch, connections in construction. Betrayal hit like ice water. So that's it? Run? After everything. His eyes met mine, shattered glass. Not running. Sacrificing. For you. But the lie cracked. Jake's flyers, the crew's scorn. His own buried doubts surfacing like weeds. No. I choked, grabbing his arm. You don't get to decide alone. This is us or nothing. He pulled away, bag zipping shut. Maybe nothing's better. The door clicked behind him, truck rumbling to life in the alley, leaving me in the empty house, echoes mocking. The house died without him. Creaks turning to groans, shadows lengthening into accusations. I wandered rooms like a ghost, fingers trailing dust on mom's old vanity, her jewelry box spilling costume pearls across the wood. Brian's absence was a bruise, throbbing with every heartbeat. The empty hook by the door for his keys, the cold side of the bed, the silence where his gravelly night, love used to anchor me. Jake tried reaching out once. A text told you so. Let me help. I deleted it, blocking the number for good. Pride's cheers felt hollow now, a Pyrrhic victory that cost us everything. Work dried up too. Whispers followed me to meetings, clients citing distractions. I drowned in ramen and renders, sketching abstract hearts cracked like fault lines, selling them on Etsy for pennies. A week in, Aunt Rita called, her Jersey twang sharp as a switchblade. Boy, what the hell? Brian shows up on my doorstep, drunk and mumbling about letting you fly. I ain't running a hotel for broken fools. Tell him to come home, I begged, voice cracking over the line. Please. She sighed, heavy with that maternal weight mom had passed on. He loves you, Kev. Deep. But he's scared, thinks he's poisoned now after the crew turned. Give him time. Time. The word mocked as days bled into August, humidity clinging like regret. I threw myself into a passion project. A graphic novel about forbidden loves in the city. Queer tales drawn from our stolen moments. Brian's compass tattoo etched into every hero's wrist. It poured out of me, pages filling with rain-slicked kisses and rooftop confessions. Catharsis in charcoal lines. Then, a lifeline, An email from a small queer press in the village. Your portfolio's raw real. We want the novel. Advance, $5,000. Elation surged, hot and hopeful. I called Rita immediately. Tell him we're gonna make it. She promised, but radio silence followed. Desperation clawed. I drove to Jersey unannounced, navigating turnpike traffic in Mom's old Corolla, nerves jangling like loose change. Rita's split level in Edison glowed welcoming, hydrangeas blooming riotous in the yard. She met me at the door, apron dusted with flour, pulling me into a flowery hug. He's out back, she said, jerking a thumb toward the patio. Mowing. Again. Man's a machine when he's avoiding. I found him in the yard, pushing the ancient John Deere, shirtless under the sun, sweat gleaming on his tanned back. The sight hit like a freight train, muscles flexing, the compass inked bold, a reminder of paths diverged. He killed the engine, wiping his brow, hazel eyes widening in shock. Kev. My name was a exhale, reverent and ragged. He stepped off the mower, closing the distance, but halted feet away, hands flexing at his sides. What are you doing here? Fighting for us, idiot. I closed the gap, fisting his tank top, pulling him down for a kiss that tasted of salt and second chances. He groaned into it, hands cupping my face, then my waist, lifting me against the fence like I weighed nothing. The world narrowed, birds chirping, Rita's distant clatter inside, until he set me down, breathing hard. Can't, he murmured, forehead to mine. I broke us, that night, panicked, thought leavin' was noble, but it was cowardice. Then stay broken with me. I traced his jaw, thumb brushing the silver threading his stubble. The book's selling, money's coming, and I need you. Your laugh at 3 a.m., your hands fixing what's cracked. His eyes searched mine, storms clearing to sunlight. Book? You're publishin'? I nodded, grinning through tears. About us. Anonymized, but us. He kissed me again, slower, sealing fractures. I'm in. All the way. We drove back that night, his hand on my thigh the whole way, Brooklyn lights welcoming like old friends. Rita waved us off with a don't fuck it up and a Tupperware of meatballs. Home felt alive again. Dinner devoured on the stoop, stories swapped over beer, bodies reuniting in the shower with water hot as our whispers. But love's not a straight line. It's a Brooklyn street, potholed and twisting. September brought the publisher's notes. Deepen the betrayal arc. Make it hurt more. I revised late, Brian rubbing my shoulders, but tension simmered. His new gig, odd jobs via Rita's church network, paid scraps, pride stinging his blue-collar soul. Feels like charity, he'd grumble, slamming cabinets. You're providing, I'd counter. But words fell flat. One night after a call from Marco, crew misses you, man. Water under the bridge. Brian came home buzzing, eyes alight. They want me back. Apology tour, but steady pay. Elation warred with dread. The flyers? Jake? He waved it off. Ancient history. I'm going. I wanted to cheer, but unease nod. The next weeks, he dove in, dawn departures, dust on his boots, laughs over crew tales that excluded the queer parts of us. Distance crept. Kisses rushed, nights where he crashed early, snoring soft while I stared at ceilings, novel revisions blurring. Then the gut punch. Scrolling Instagram late one October evening, a tagged photo, Brian at a site barbecue, arm around Marco, beers raised, grins wide. Caption, back where I belong, boys. No mention of me, no compass glinting. Jealousy flared, irrational but real. I confronted him over meatloaf. Mom's recipe, ironies abound. Saw the pic. Where you belong? What about us? He blinked, fork pausing. It's just work, Kev. Bonding. They don't know. Exactly. I shoved my plate, voice rising. Hiding again? After pride? After everything? His jaw set, that stubborn line I loved and loathed. Can't burn bridges. Need the job for us. For you, I shot back, hurt sharpening to shards. I'm proud. You're ashamed. The fight escalated, words hurled like bricks. My artsy detachment. His clinging to normalcy. He stormed out, truck peeling into the night. I collapsed on the couch, sobs racking, novel pages scattering like confetti from a failed party. Hours later, he returned, reeking of dive bar regret, eyes bloodshot. I'm sorry, he slurred, dropping to his knees before me. Scared I'll lose you to this life. The city, your book, pretty collaborators. So I hold tight to what I know. I pulled him up, forgiving in the press of bodies, but the scar lingered. We made love slow, apologetic, hands gentle, eyes locked, reaffirming us. Dawn brought coffee and covenants, therapy, joint sessions with a queer counselor in the Heights, unpacking closets within closets. Winter crept in, frosty breaths on windows, but we thawed. Holiday lights strung on the stoop, Brian carving turkey with Rita visiting, her toasts to found family bringing tears. The book launch loomed December, a cozy reading at a bookstore in Cobble Hill. Invites went out, friends who'd stuck, Rita beaming. Jake's name hovered, unspoken. Then, a week before, an email heard about the book. Deserved to see it burn. But, congrats, Jay. Bittersweet but progress. I replied thanks. Doors open if you want it. The launch night glittered string lights, mulled wine, crowd buzzing with queer-lit lovers. Brian stood proud at my side, hand in mine, introducing me as my partner, the talent. Readings drew laughs, gasps, signings stretched late. As we walked home, snow flurrying soft, he stopped under a lamppost, pulling a small velvet box from his coat. Not a ring too soon, he said, voice husky, but a promise. Therapy, truth, together. Inside, twin silver bands, engraved storm and steady. I slipped one on, kissing him fierce amid the flakes. Forever. But fate's a trickster. New Year's Eve, confetti still settling from Times Square broadcasts. Brian's phone rang, unknown number. He answered in the kitchen, voice dropping low. I caught fragments, Elena, letter, hidden, heart stuttering. I waited as he hung up, face pale. Marco, he explained, sinking to a chair, found a letter from your ma. In his truck. Must have been there years. For me. My pulse roared. What did it say? He handed it over, envelope yellowed, mom's script looping elegant. Brian, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Take care of my boy. Love him like I couldn't say aloud. He needs your steady. Yours, E. Tears blurred the ink. She'd known, seen the spark, blessed it in secret. She approved. He nodded, pulling me close. Always one step ahead. Spring unfurled reluctant in Brooklyn. Cherry blossoms tentative against gray skies. Tulips pushing through cracked sidewalks like stubborn hopes. The letter became our talisman, tucked in the nightstand drawer beside the compass keychain. A whisper from Mom urging us onward. Therapy sessions deepened us. Brian unpacking Navy traumas, the hyper-masculine armor that choked vulnerability. Me dissecting abandonment scars, the fear of loving too fierce only to lose. We grew roots, joint bank account for the novel's royalties, modest but steady. Weekend hikes in Prospect Park where he'd hoist me piggyback over streams, laughter echoing off dogwood trees. Jake reemerged tentatively. A coffee meet at a neutral cafe in Boerum Hill, apologies mumbled over lattes. I was scared of losing you, he admitted, eyes downcast. Twisted it into hate. Forgiven? I said, clasping his hand across the table. But boundaries, man. We're good, better as friends. He nodded, relief flooding his face, and slowly, the circle mended. Group hangs at rooftop bars, Jake sketching covers for my next book, even an awkward beer with Marco, where old wounds scarred over with time's clumsy stitch. Yet climax loomed, unbidden. June heat baked the brownstone, AC wheezing futile against the swelter. Brian's crew had warmed, begrudging nods to the boyfriend. Invitations to barbecues where I flipped burgers beside him, our fingers brushing over tongs. But one sweltering Friday, he came home hollow-eyed, collapsing onto the couch with a beer he nursed like medicine. "Slight accident," he said, voice flat. "Kid, apprentice, 22. Fell from scaffolding. Broken back, maybe worse." His hands trembled, calluses stark against the bottle. "My watch." I signed off on the harness. Guilt etched his face, deeper than any tattoo. I knelt before him, prying the beer away. "Not your fault. These things happen." But it did. On my crew. What if? He trailed off, eyes distant, ghosts of past losses. Sarah's crash, Mom's fade, resurfacing. That night, nightmares gripped him. Thrashing, murmurs of my fault, sweat-soaked sheets. I held him through it, whispering anchors, but dawn brought distance. He buried in overtime, avoiding eyes at breakfast. The conflict peaked at a crew fundraiser for the kid. Raffles and ribs at a lot in Gowanus. Humid air thick with grill smoke. Brian insisted I come. Face it head-on. I did, in chinos and a button-up, feeling exposed amid the flannel and work boots. Handshakes were stiff, jokes laced with side eyes. But Marco clapped Brian's back, muttering, "Good you're here, man." Then Jake arrived, invited by a mutual, beer in hand, grin faltering at the sight of me. "Didn't know you'd be." He trailed off, but tension crackled, old currents stirring. As night deepened, toasts turned maudlin. Stories of close calls, the brotherhood of near misses. Brian spoke last, voice steady but strained. "We're family here, blood or not. We lift when one falls." Applause rippled, but his eyes met mine across the fire pit, pleading help me. After "In the truck," he broke. "Can't shake it, Kev. Feels like I'm cursed, lose everyone I touch." Tears tracked his cheeks, illuminated by dashboard glow. "You're not cursed," I said, pulling over under a viaduct, rain starting to patter on the roof. "You're human, and I'm here. Through falls, not just flights." He turned, grasping my shirt. "But what if I drag you down too? Like the crew thinks? Like Jake thought?" The betrayal echoed. Not Jake's old venom, but Brian's internalized poison. The doubt he'd carried since the flyers, the firing, the flight to Jersey. "They don't define us," I countered, fierce. "You do. We do." He kissed me then, desperate, rain drumming crescendo. We tumbled into the back seat, narrow space forcing closeness. Clothes shed hasty, bodies slick with sweat and storm. It was cathartic, reclaiming. My hands pinning his wrists, his gasps against my neck. "I need you," a mantra. In the haze of release, barriers crumbled. He confessed the floral scent that long ago night. Not perfume, but a stolen moment of weakness, texting an ex for advice on coming out late. Deleting it in shame. "Forgive me?" he whispered, vulnerable as a boy. "Always?" I breathed, tracing his compass. "North is us." The aftermath softened him. Calls to the apprentice's family. Anonymous donations from our joint fund. Therapy doubled down, unearthing roots. His father's belt for softness. Navy drills pounding stoicism. I shared 2 high school beatings, the app hookups that left me hollow. Together, we wove stronger threads. Summer waned, leaves turning gold like Brian's eyes. The novel hit shelves, reviews praising its raw humanism. Queer love not as trope, but testament. A sequel brewed, this one collaborative. His stories fueling mine, plot twists drawn from our scars. Fall brought harvest. Rita's wedding redo, divorce reversed, miracles abound. Us as unofficial best men, dancing cheek to cheek under strung lights. Jake toasted us, genuine. To storms that stay, winter's cusp, rooftop under stars, city sprawl a glittering sea. Brian pulled me close, breath fogging. "Marry me? Not today, but someday." I grinned, snowflakes catching in his lashes. "Somedays now." We kissed as midnight tolled, bells from distant churches mingling with horns. A symphony of continuance. No tidy bows, life's messier, laced with what-ifs. But in each other's arms, we found grace. Mom's letter, tucked in my pocket, rustled approval. Love, in all its human tangle, endures. Not every story ends in fireworks. Some smolder quiet, embers warming the long nights. Ours? A steady burn, humanistic and hard one, proving that from grief's ashes, something unbreakable can rise.